Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Flip Show. It's your host, Most Keep True, talking about any cloud on word and want to flow. And we coming at you live at 5:21, and we got some content, man. We're not done. This gonna be Shannon Sharpe getting fired from the ESPN due to the latest lawsuit settlement with that OnlyFans model. First video we're gonna check out is from the Golden Age, and checked them out yesterday for the Malcolm Jamal Warner content. Y'all go over there, give him a like, give him a comment, give him a sub, check out his channel, share it. The title is Cat Williams React, Shannon Sharpe is not who we thought he was. Let's check it out.
Wide leader in sport.
Appreciate it. Before I read into the content, appreciate every liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and the notification bell so I know y'all there, so I can throw it to you in the air. Let's go.
Sports. ESPN has cut ties with former NFL tight end turned media personality Shannon Sharpe after the Hall of Famer settled a $50 million lawsuit accusing him of.
Shannon Sharpe just got fired from ESPN after settling a $50 million lawsuit. But this story goes way deeper than you think.
I didn't want to get with a white woman because I was scared she might have me running down the street like Jonathan Bay. Not because I didn't like white women. I think white women are as great as any other women. But I'm not going to act like I'm not scared of them. I have a reason to be scared. You could be Kang the Conqueror, and they could take your rabbit ass down in 2 weekends.
Cat Williams tried to warn this man, sat right there on Shannon's own couch and told him exactly what would happen if he kept chasing these young white women. Shannon just laughed it off, thinking Cat was being overly dramatic. What Shannon didn't realize was that Cat...
Dooring is a cyclist's worst nightmare. Being doored is when a car door unexpectedly opens in front of a cyclist, causing injury or even worse. Better infrastructure and better awareness can help prevent these types of accidents. Experts suggest creating more designated bike lanes where part of the road is set aside just for bikes.
Cat was being prophetic.
Will not be returning to ESPN. I found out this information a little earlier in the week.
From the top of the media world to unemployed and broke in less than 2 years. All because he couldn't listen to the people trying to save his life. But it wasn't just Cat. Monique was out.
Monique told him too. She's like, you need to stop messing with these white young, or she just said young women, but she didn't clarify white, but she said young women.
Here trying to save this man too.
You don't need no 26-year-old girl. You don't need no 36-year-old girl. I know. This is your auntie talking to you.
This is the story of how Shannon Sharpe revealed he is not who we thought he was. What makes Shannon Sharpe's downfall so tragic is that it was completely preventable. Multiple people saw the danger coming and tried to warn him, but Shannon was too arrogant to listen. When Cat Williams sat down for that historic Club Shay Shay interview in January 2024, he wasn't just there to expose other comedians. He was dropping real knowledge about survival in Hollywood. And part of that knowledge included a very specific warning about the dangers that successful Black men face.
Now, I've had to turn down $50 million 4 times. 4 times. Just to protect my integrity and that virgin hole I was telling you about.
Cat was explaining how the industry tests you, how they try to compromise you, and how you have to be willing to say no to protect yourself. But then he got even more specific about romantic relationships and their dangers. The Jonathan Majors reference in Cat's warning wasn't random. It was a direct parallel to what would eventually happen to Shannon. Majors had been on top of the world with Marvel contracts and major film roles, but a domestic violence case involving a white woman destroyed his entire career practically overnight. Cat saw the same pattern forming with Shannon and tried to redirect him.
Remember, I told you the story from when I'm in the park.
Yeah.
So these are just the things. I had all of those when I came in. I already was ready for that. That's what they don't like.
I did not know. You're telling me and showing me a side of the business that I didn't know.
This was Shannon acknowledging that Cat was teaching him things about the industry that he didn't know. Cat was literally educating him about the traps and pitfalls that destroy careers. But when it came to the specific warning about white women and the dangers they posed, Shannon couldn't see how it applied to him. But Shannon's response revealed everything about his mindset. Instead of taking the warning seriously, he treated it like entertainment. He didn't understand that Kat wasn't speaking from paranoia. He was speaking from pattern recognition and genuine concern. The lawsuit that would eventually destroy Shannon's ESPN career perfectly matches what Kat warned about. A much younger white woman, a relationship that went bad, allegations that destroyed his reputation, and a career that couldn't survive the controversy. Kat had seen this exact movie play out with other successful black men, and he tried to save Shannon from becoming the next victim. But Kat Williams wasn't the only one trying to save Shannon from himself. Just 1 month after that January 2024 interview, another voice of wisdom would sit on that same Club Shay Shay couch and deliver an even more specific warning. And this time, the prophet would be Monique. If Kat's warning was subtle and philosophical, Monique's intervention was direct and unmistakable. When she appeared on Club Shay Shay, she didn't just offer general advice. She looked Shannon in the eye and told him exactly what he needed to do to avoid destroying his life.
You don't need no 26-year-old girl. You don't need no 36-year-old girl.
I do.
This is your auntie talking to you.
Monique understood something that Shannon refused to acknowledge: the fundamental mismatch between what he was pursuing and what would actually make him happy and secure. She wasn't being funny when she told him to find an older woman who could bake cakes and rub his feet. She was giving him a blueprint for stability and genuine love. But her warning went deeper than just relationship advice. She understood the specific dangers that come with age gap relationships, especially for high-profile men.
When they want you to go for the 4th round, you looking at her like, bitch, listen, I need you want some money to go to Starbucks?
Yeah,
because I can't go no further. But if you get your older girl, when you get to that 4th round, she's going to say, hold on. Let me go get you some eggs and cheese.
To start a podcast with Riverside, all you need is a concept and a way to record it. Here's how.
This wasn't just comedy. Monique was explaining how mismatched expectations create relationship problems. When you're approaching 60 and trying to keep up with someone in their 20s, the physical and emotional demands become unsustainable. That mismatch creates frustration, which creates conflict, which eventually creates the kind of toxic situations that end in lawsuits. The most prophetic part of Monique's appearance was how she understood that Shannon's choices weren't just about romance. They were about ego and validation. She could see that he was chasing young women to feel young himself, but she knew that path led to destruction.
These young gals will bite you. Okay?
Yeah. Okay, guess I gotta come on home.
Come on home, Shannon.
Even the way Monique delivered her advice showed how much she cared about Shannon's well-being. She wasn't trying to embarrass him or make him look bad. She was genuinely trying to save him from making catastrophic mistakes. She called herself his auntie and spoke to him with the kind of tough love that family members give when they see you heading toward disaster. Now, watching Shannon's career implode exactly as Monique predicted, her words sound like prophecy. She told him to find an older woman who would genuinely care for him, but instead, he pursued a relationship with someone young enough to be his granddaughter. The result was exactly what Monique warned about, a situation that bit him and ultimately destroyed everything he had worked for. When the $50 million lawsuit was filed in April 2025, it validated every warning that Kat Williams and Monique had given Shannon. The allegations painted a picture of exactly the kind of toxic relationship that both comedians had tried to steer him away from. According to the legal documents, Shannon's relationship with his accuser began when she was 20 years old, and he was 56. This wasn't just an age gap. It was a generational divide that created inherent power imbalances and communication problems. The lawsuit described a pattern where Shannon allegedly became controlling, using his size and influence to intimidate someone who was barely out of her teens when their relationship began. These are exactly the dynamics that Monique warned about when she told Shannon he couldn't handle relationships with much younger women. Shannon's attorney's statement revealed that Shannon had initially offered millions of dollars to keep the case private, but when that failed, all the intimate details came flooding out anyway. This is precisely what Cat Williams meant when he warned about situations that could take your rabbit ass down in 2 weekends. The most damaging aspect wasn't just the allegations themselves. It was how they confirmed the pattern that both Cat and Monique had identified. Shannon was pursuing relationships that put him at risk, ignoring the advice of people who genuinely cared about his well-being.
Nothing yet, right? Okay.
And paying the ultimate price for his choices. When Shannon finally acknowledged that his ESPN career was over, you could hear the devastation in his voice. This wasn't just a job loss. It was the destruction of everything he had built in media. All because he couldn't listen to the people who were trying to save him from exactly this scenario. The settlement that followed reportedly cost Shannon tens of millions of dollars, but the professional damage was irreversible. ESPN couldn't afford to be associated with someone who had been accused of SA, regardless of how the legal case was resolved. Both Cat Williams and Monique had seen this exact outcome and tried to prevent it. They understood that Shannon's relationship choices weren't just personal decisions. They were career-threatening risks that could destroy their warnings, and now he's paying. One of the most telling aspects of Shannon's legal battle was his refusal to view the video evidence that his accuser's attorney claimed to possess. This wasn't just a legal strategy. It revealed something fundamental about Shannon's approach to his own situation. Shannon's refusal to view evidence in his own case raised serious questions about his confidence in his version of events. Most innocent people would want to see exactly what evidence existed against them, but Shannon apparently wanted to maintain what legal experts called plausible deniability. The video became a central piece of the settlement negotiations, with Shannon's team acknowledging its existence while simultaneously challenging the accuser's attorney to release the full footage rather than edited clips.
Busby targets black men, and I believe he's going to release a 30-second clip of a sex that tries to make me look guilty and play into every stereotype you could possibly imagine. That video should actually be 10 minutes or so. Hey, Tony, instead of releasing your edit, put the whole video out.
This statement revealed that Shannon knew exactly what was on the recording and was confident enough in his interpretation.
The Guesty Unified Inbox makes it easy to manage guest messages no matter how fast they pile up. First,
to demand its full release. But his legal team's reluctance to let him view the evidence suggests they understood it might not support his public statements.
Him refusing to look at the evidence just gives me the impression that he wants plausible deniability, and maybe the evidence should be released so that way he does not deny his actions. I mean, if that was me, I would definitely want to look at the evidence to see what I did and did not do so I can maintain my innocence.
The contradiction between Shannon's public confidence and his private reluctance to view the evidence became a significant factor in how the case was perceived. It suggested that even Shannon's own legal team understood the footage was more damaging than he wanted to admit. This pattern of avoidance and denial connects directly to how Shannon had handled the warnings from Cat Williams and Monique. Just as he had refused to seriously consider their advice about his relationship choices, he was now refusing to confront evidence that might force him to acknowledge the consequences of those choices. The man who had laughed off Cat Williams' warnings and dismissed Monique's advice was now facing the exact scenario they had both predicted. But this nightmare was far from over. The worst was yet to come. By July 2025, it became clear that Shannon Sharpe was ready to make the nightmare go away, regardless of the cost. On July 18th, Tony Busby announced that the lawsuit had been settled for an undisclosed amount, with all parties agreeing that the matter was closed. He said, "All matters have now been addressed satisfactorily, and the matter is closed. The lawsuit will thus be dismissed with prejudice." The phrase "dismissed with prejudice" meant that Zuniga couldn't refile the same claims against Shannon in the same court. But while the legal matter was resolved, the professional consequences were just beginning. Industry insiders speculated that the settlement could have been as high as $23 million, though neither side confirmed the amount. What we do know is that Shannon agreed to pay enough money to make Zuniga disappear from public view. She reportedly retired from OnlyFans shortly after the settlement. But Shannon's problems were far from over. ESPN had been watching the situation closely, and the network's decision makers had apparently concluded that bringing Shannon back would be too risky, regardless of how the legal case was resolved. On July 31st, 2025, ESPN officially cut ties with Shannon Sharpe. The network's decision came just 2 weeks after the lawsuit settlement, making it clear that settling the case hadn't saved Shannon's career.
I will not be returning to ESPN. I found out this information a little earlier in the week.
Shannon's response revealed how devastating the timing was for his family. His brother, Sterling Sharpe, was being inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and Shannon had asked ESPN to delay the announcement until after the ceremony.
Okay, Erica.
ESPN refused, adding insult to injury by overshadowing Sterling's moment with news of Shannon's firing. The brutal reality is that ESPN's decision makes perfect sense from a business perspective. The network is owned by Disney, which has zero tolerance for the kind of controversy that Shannon had generated. Even if Shannon had been completely innocent of the allegations, the mere fact that he had been accused of SA and had to settle for millions of dollars made him unemployable at a family-friendly network. Shannon's fall from grace was complete. In January 2024, he was at the peak of his media career, hosting one of the most popular podcasts in sports and appearing regularly on ESPN's flagship morning show. By August 2025, he was unemployed, tens of millions of dollars poorer, and facing an uncertain future in media. The most tragic part is how preventable all of this was. Multiple people had warned Shannon about exactly this scenario, but he had chosen to ignore their advice and pursue relationships that put him at risk. Now he was paying the ultimate price for those choices. But perhaps the most damaging revelation of all was what this entire saga revealed about who Shannon Sharpe really was beneath the polished television persona. As fans watch Shannon Sharpe's career implode in real time, they have to ask ourselves, who was this man really? The Shannon Sharpe who appeared on television every day seemed confident, successful, and in control. But the Shannon Sharpe revealed by this lawsuit and his response to various warnings seems like someone else entirely. Looking back at the Cat Williams interview, Shannon's dismissive response to legitimate warnings now seems incredibly arrogant. When someone with Cat's insight and experience tells you that you're playing with fire, the smart response is to listen, not laugh. But Shannon acted like he was above the kind of consequences that had destroyed other men in similar situations. The fan reactions to Shannon's downfall reveal how many people saw this coming. People were saying this was inevitable, that paying off his accuser didn't solve anything but likely saved him from further embarrassment. Others pointed out that Shannon had created his own problems by pursuing relationships with much younger women despite being warned against it, that he played stupid games and won stupid prizes. Perhaps the most common reaction was people pointing out that Monique had literally predicted this exact scenario, that he should have listened to her when she told him on his own show to stop chasing young women and find someone age-appropriate who could actually care for him. What this reveals about Shannon is that he was never as smart or self-aware as he appeared on television. Despite having access to wise counsel from people like Cat Williams and Monique, Shannon chose to believe that he was somehow special or immune to the consequences that had destroyed other men. The Instagram Live incident should have been his wake-up call, but instead of seeing it as a warning sign, Shannon treated it as a minor embarrassment. This shows a pattern of denial and poor judgment that extends far beyond his dating choices. Some reactions got very specific about what the lawsuit revealed about Shannon's personal preferences and behavior. The details that emerged during the legal proceedings painted a picture of someone whose private life was very different from his public persona, with people commenting on his apparent preference for situations that put him at risk. The most damaging revelation is that Shannon was apparently willing to risk everything: his career, his reputation, his financial security, for relationships that multiple people had warned him were dangerous. This suggests either incredibly poor judgment or some kind of compulsion that he couldn't control. The financial aspect of Shannon's downfall is particularly painful to watch. People noted how he essentially gave his wealth to someone who was barely out of her teens when their relationship began, transferring generational wealth to someone who had contributed nothing to building it. What makes this even worse is that Shannon had been financially successful for decades. He had NFL money, media money, and podcast money. But instead of using that wealth to secure his future, he ended up giving much of it away to settle a lawsuit that could have been avoided if he had just listened to the people trying to help him. The tragedy of Shannon Sharpe is that he had everything: success, money, respect, platform, and threw it all away for relationships that everyone around him could see were going to destroy him. He had people in his corner trying to save him from himself, but he was too arrogant or too addicted to dangerous situations to listen to them. Now Shannon is unemployed, financially devastated, and facing an uncertain future. All because he couldn't take advice from people who genuinely cared about his well-being and could see where his choices were leading him. Anyway, that's it for the video, folks. Bye.
We ran a promotion cutting the price of Mint Unlimited in half, and it was so popular, we're doing it again. It's like a sequel that's actually as good as the original. Maybe better. Definitely not worse. Okay, it's exactly the same.
They say half of women in relationships have a backup dude. If I could show you a site that could help you find those dudes, would you want it? Hell yes.
Shalom. I truly pray all is well with you and your loved ones. Today, I want to share my thoughts about Shannon Sharpe being fired from ESPN. While the details are still unfolding, what concerns me more is what this moment reveals about us as men. Because whether you're in the spotlight or not, there's a pattern playing out far too often. Men rising to prominence and then falling. Not because of a lack of talent or even a lack of discipline, but a lack of sexual self-control. And I've said this before, but it's important that I repeat it now. This isn't just about another man's downfall. This is about a dangerous lie that has been told to a generation of men. The lie is that manhood is about conquest and that you have to have sex with whoever you want, do whatever you want. And if consequences come from your actions, just buy your way out. We've been conditioned to believe that if you don't have power, money, and women, your manhood is in question. But that lie is why so many of us end up successful, but still suicidal, surrounded, but still lonely. That, my brothers, is not the way. That's not peace. That's a facade. See, my brothers, we've been misled. You've been taught that it's okay to follow your flesh instead of mastering it. You've been praised for being a player instead of prepared to truly be a protector. And now too many of us are mistaking recklessness for masculinity. Please don't swerve on what I'm saying. When your manhood is tied to your libido, you will always be one temptation away from losing everything. It is written that a man without self-control is as defenseless as a city with broken down walls. That's Proverbs chapter 25, verse 28. See, in ancient times, a city's walls were its protection. Without them, you were exposed to every enemy and every attack. So without sexual self-control, you're not just vulnerable, my brothers, you're already compromised. It's not a lifestyle you're living, it's what I call a death style. And what's worse, this lack of self-control isn't even being addressed. We go to men's conferences and youth camps and talk about tying ties and making money, but nobody wants to talk about lust or adultery or porn. Well, I don't want to say nobody, but it's rare that we hear those topics talked about or discussed. Rarely do people or men want to talk about how broken homes and STDs are often rooted in one thing: uncontrolled or unmastered lust. We're teaching boys how to dress for an interview, but not how to discipline the thoughts that make them want to have sex with every girl they see. My brothers, we have truly lost our way. Sexual self-control is the power to control one's sexual desires and erotic emotions, especially in tempting situations. But today, sex has become like a sport, not sacred, not covenant, just a game. And when sex becomes your scoreboard, women stop being humans. They become targets. You don't pursue intimacy, you just collect bodies. The term trophy wife alone is proof of how far we've fallen as men, as protectors, as providers, as leaders, as lovers. The term trophy wife insults the Most High's masterful creation of women and turns his daughters into objects. And when boys grow up watching that, mimicking that, repeating that, they don't just mistreat women, they inherit the same dysfunction we, the men, never healed from. Remember, children don't do what we say, they do what we do. And if you're not careful, sex will become your drug, and theirs too. The more you indulge, the more you crave, it will eventually take more intensity, more frequency, and even more perversion to feel what you're used to feeling. You'll keep chasing the high, needing a new woman just to feel alive, all while you're walking dead. This is why I talk about the spirit behind lust, because it doesn't just aim to destroy your relationships. It wants to rob your bank account and deter you from your purpose. Lust will make you sacrifice your family, your finances, even your future, just for 5 minutes of pleasure. Proverbs chapter 29, verse 3 warns us that a companion of prostitutes squanders his wealth. There were times in my life when I had to walk away from money just to protect my integrity. I remember I once walked away from a $25,000 kitchen remodel job just because the homeowner, who was a single woman, wanted me to be more than a contractor. She wanted me to, actually, she even said that she would like for me to be like a father to her son, and she knew I was married. And even though my friends had pressured me, who had worked for me, they said, man, dude, that's a lot of money, Jay, we're going to leave on the table. One of my laborers even offered to have sex with her just to keep the job. My brothers, this is how far we have fallen, but be encouraged, we can still rise. Even in the streets, my brothers, lust has been the kryptonite that has taken the lives of many men. Back in my era, if someone wanted to set up a drug dealer, they didn't send the hitman first. They sent a woman, because a man enslaved by lust will go wherever she wants him to go. And like Proverbs chapter 7 warns us and says that, and it talks about this type of woman. It says she seduced him with her pretty speech and enticed him with her flattery. He followed her at once, like an ox going to the slaughter, little knowing it would cost him his life, his job, his career, his future. I'm paraphrasing there. For she has been the ruin of many, many men have become her victims. Her house is the road to the grave. Her bedroom is the den of death. Meditate on that for a moment, my brothers. We all know it. We've all seen many men we admire, been inspired by. All have fallen on the same sword. Brothers, the word and this world has already shown us the outcome of having no sexual self-control. If you don't master your lust will master you and lead you straight to destruction. My warriors, your masculine attributes were given to us or given to you by Yah. But without self-control, the power will always become perverted. Or I better yet say, without sexual self-control, that power will become perverted. Here are 6 actions every man enslaved to lust must take. Number 1, repent. This isn't about saying I'm sorry so that you will feel better. This is about turning around before you walk off the cliff. Real repentance means real change. Yah doesn't need your apologies. He wants your surrender. Action step number 2, fear Yah. That's what keeps me faithful to my wife and on the narrow path. Yes, I deeply love Nicole and would never want to hurt her. But I've learned after counseling men who've cheated on their wives that love alone isn't enough to keep a man's lust in check. It's the fear of the Most High, because no human being can hold you accountable or convict you to change like his Holy Spirit can. Action step number 3, set boundaries before you're tempted. As the saying goes, prepare for war during times of peace. Block women on social media who stir lust and train your algorithm to stop feeding you images and videos that tempt you to lust. Simply click not interested and your feed will only become what's beneficial to you. Action step number 4, respect your body. If you belong to Yahushua, your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit. For it is written, do you not know that your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit within you, whom you have been given from God? You are not your own. Action step number 5, guard your eyes. It's written that we must guard our heart, for it's the wellspring of life. But we must also guard our eyes. For it is also written that Job made a covenant with his eyes to not look with lust at a young woman. And what's deep, I've always found it interesting that during this day, women didn't dress as provocative as they do today. And even then, Job had the wisdom to make a covenant with his eyes to control the lust and practice sexual self-control. So in closing, my brothers, again, if you don't master your lust will master you. And if you keep following the manosphere instead of the Most High, you'll become a shell of a man looking alive on the outside, but dead on the inside. So today, my brothers, start breaking free from the lies, remove the facade, and become the man Yah created you to be. I pray this video was an encouragement to you and empowered you to destroy the lust in your life, or the lust that's destroying your life. If you would like to be notified when I upload another video, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Until next time, my brothers, keep growing, keep building, and keep striving to be the man the moment demands. Shalom.
Now I'm looking right at y'all. Let me tell y'all what Shannon needs. Let me tell you what my baby needs. He need him an old fat gal who can bake good cakes, make some smothered turkey wings, who gonna rub his feet at the nighttime, okay, and gonna have a sip of his cognac to make him feel better about himself when he come home at night. That's what Shannon needs. You don't need no 26-year-old girl. You don't need no 36-year-old girl. This is your auntie talking to you. Take your ass and get you an old bitch out there that can love you old. You're trying to hang out with these young bitches and you can't do it, Shannon. You just can't do it.
We're ready. We're prepared. Do not give in to fear. We are fearless. This is not the time to be afraid. This is the time to stand up and fight back and to resist any temptation for them to divide us. We're in this together. The rule of law is on our side. We will not give in, not give up. We will not capitulate. We will not bow. We will not bend. We will survive.
Shannon Sharpe, I mentioned yesterday, he stepped down. Oh, no, he didn't step down. He got sat down. He got sat down. ESPN was like, thank you. We parted ways. We parted ways. Before he spoke out. He made a statement. Before I play the statement, I want to remind people that some of us are not mature enough to take good advice. I've said this to a bunch of people, and I think I've said it on these airwaves. When I started being obedient, and I'm saying this as somebody that I'm sure most of you would say, oh, she's not obedient. No, I'm very obedient. I do not disobey the laws that are presented to me. And good advice is one thing. There's a scripture that says plans fail for lack of counsel. With many advisors, they succeed. But it talks about wise counsel. It also talks about seeking wise counsel. I seek wise counsel. I don't really make a decision without, Drew calls them his board of directors. I don't make a decision in my life, not a major one, without having wise counsel. And I think that's super important. I'm not going to lean on my own understanding. I'm saying something today. Okay. This man sat across from a woman, Monique, who gave him some very good advice. And I don't think he took it. Let's remind people. Ms. Club Shay Shay, Monique, play it. Now I'm looking right at y'all. Let me tell y'all what Shannon needs. Let me tell you what my baby needs. He need him an old fat gal who can bake good cakes, make some smothered turkey wings, who gonna rub his feet at the nighttime, okay, and gonna have a sip of his cognac to make him feel better about himself when he come home at night. That's what Shannon needs. You don't need no 26-year-old girl. You don't need no 36-year-old girl. This is your auntie talking to you. Take your ass and get you an old bitch out there that can love you old. You're trying to hang out with these young bitches and you can't do it, Shannon. You just can't do it. When they want you to go for the fourth round, you looking at her like, bitch, listen, you want some money to go to Starbucks? Yeah, because I can't go no further. But if you get your older girl, when you get to that fourth round, she's going to say, hold on. Let me go get you some eggs and cheese and some toast with apple butter, because that's going to get your energy back up. I'm talking right to you. Shit. So he thought I was going to be scared. Yes, I'm talking. And I know an old gal, she'll be good to you. Her name is Elladora. Elladora. No, he wanted to get Becky. Wanted to go get Amy. Wanted to go get Jenny. $50 million lawsuit. Don't know what the settlement is. Somewhere in the $20 million range, more than he made playing an entire career. Football Hall of Fame career, getting his head busted in, probably knees hurt, hips hurt. Whole career didn't make as much as he's paying a 20-something-year-old who never has to work again in her life. So his brother, Sterling Sharpe, who I actually knew first because I used to cover sports, and Sterling was the more talented one, right? From what I remember. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame as well, Sterling Sharpe. I think he's being inducted on Monday. And so, well, you'll hear Shannon Sharpe tried to get ESPN to wait to fire him publicly because his brother is being inducted into the Hall of Fame as well. Two brothers. What an amazing family, the Sharpe family. Brother was he a wide receiver? Was his brother a wide receiver? I think he was a wide receiver. Yep, for the Green Bay Packers. Play the clip, Spence.
To get started, obviously, I'm sure everybody's heard the news by now that I will not be returning to ESPN. I found out this information a little earlier in the week, and really the only thing that I really ask is like, guys, could we wait until Monday? My brother's going into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I really wanted to be about him, and I wanted to be about my family. I know this coming out will overshadow everything that he's worked his entire life for. And unfortunately, it didn't happen that way. And so as I told him, as I profusely apologized to him earlier today, he said, bro, stop apologizing. You don't have to apologize. I'm your big bro. I'm going to love you regardless. We all make mistakes. And he says, bro, I love you. So I'm done with this. You're done with it too. Move on. And I really enjoyed my time at ESPN. It gave me an opportunity to bring my audience that saw me really just grow. They saw me, Lakers in 5, and they saw me say all these analogies that my grandparents gave me, and I was able to bring that to ESPN. So I'm very, very grateful for that. But I just wished, of all things, like I said, hey, they did what they felt they needed to do, and I'm at peace with that. But I just wish, guys, this thing could have waited until Monday, because I hate the fact that I'm overshadowing my brother, the first two brothers in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And this is what the headline's going to be for the next couple of days. So, bro, again, I know you told me this, I don't have to apologize, but I'm going to do it one final time tonight, and I won't apologize again. I'm sorry that I upstaged you in this manner. That was never my intent. You've been my hero. You've been my role model from as long as I can remember. And I apologize, and I thank all my fans for supporting me when I was at ESPN and every place that I've been, be it Club Shay Shay, Nightcap, Undisputed, ESPN. Thank you guys for your support.
You can never upstage Shannon Sharpe. You downstage yourself and your legacy. And it's unforced. It's an unforced error because you're not a 20-year-old or a 30-year-old where I guess we could leave room for the things people do in their 20s and 30s. You're a man pushing 60, making choices that apparently must not have been problematic for you when you were making these choices. And again, this is not an indictment on, I know I see a lot of Snow Bunny commentary in social media. This is not even about his proclivities for women outside of Blackness. Although there can be space to have that conversation, because I don't think those choices are made in a vacuum for him and people for whom that is a desire, right? I think I'm always asking this question, whether we're going to talk about Al Pacino, who just had a baby, maybe. I don't know if he got the DNA, but yeah, just had a baby, with a woman who's like, she in her 20s, Al Pacino's like 80, push. It is curious to me. What does a 60-year-old man have in common with a 20-something-year-old outside of sex? Yes, sex is something, but what do y'all talk? You're paying this woman $20-something million. At that stage of your life, is the sex? Is that the important? I'm asking the question. I don't know. And, really, I'm going to mind my business and drink my water. But I think there's something more here, because for me, looking at this person who has had this career, a brother just pointed out, survivor of cancer as well, his career cut short because he had a neck injury. I mean, he's been through so much. Actually, his brother's career was stopped for neck injury. But you think about somebody who has reached the pinnacle as an athlete, but maybe not as a human being. Developed as an athlete, but not necessarily as a person. And I just am going to encourage everybody to work equally. If you're in the gym, don't forego your legs. Walking around here is the physical, the emotional equivalent of somebody that never worked on their legs. Got all of the biceps and the chest, and you got walking around with these skinny ass legs. That's your insides, your emotions. Deal with the whole body, please. Please do better, because this is you're not just undermining your brother's moment. You just cut short what could have been. And because we are people of short attention spans and also even shorter capacity to care about the right things collectively, not you and me, collectively. He's gonna be fine. Club Shay Shay's gonna make him millions of dollars. He does that thing with Chad Johnson, who calls himself Ocho Cinco, and by the way, ESPN, because again, they're not, these hoes ain't loyal. They're looking to probably sign Ocho Cinco to sit in that seat to capture the same audience that Shannon captured, because it's all about the numbers for them. They don't care about you as a person. They could have waited until Monday. They made a choice to embarrass you and undermine your brother on purpose because they don't care about you.
We're ready. We're prepared. Do not give in to fear. We are fearless. This is not the time to be afraid. This is a time to stand up and fight back, and to resist any temptation for them to divide us. We're in this together. The rule of law is on our side. We will not give in, not give up. We will not capitulate. We will not bow. We will not bend. We will survive.
Shannon Sharpe got himself fired. Shannon Sharpe is responsible for him getting fired. Let's be clear. And no, this wouldn't have mattered if it was a white or black woman. Let's talk about it.
Y'all already know what time it is. I got the black V-neck on.
What's going on, you all? Shannon Sharpe has been fired. ESPN has cut ties from him. It is official. He is not coming back for the next season to give any commentary around football or sports, point blank, period. And now there's a discussion about him being fired and how it would have been better had he dated a black woman or a black girl, or see what the white girl did to you. We need to end that. We need to end that. Y'all are losing the plot. The plot is lost. Get on Google Maps, get on Waves, find your way back. The woman who is suing Shannon Sharpe is not suing him because she's a white girl. I mean, that's how we are consuming it. But she said he violated her. There were times where she did not consent to the things that he was doing. This lawsuit is about consent. We need to stop getting lost into the conversation about this being a white girl. Yes, Shannon Sharpe was dating a white girl that was way younger than him, that was improper from the very beginning. An improper relationship, unethical relationship. This girl is way younger. He is financially way more off than she is. The things that she's accusing him of, she wanted to go to trial for this, and he ended up settling out of court. Now, if Shannon Sharpe thought that this was a shakedown and all of the things, he should have had his day in court. The same way you talk about other black women and all these other things, the way you talk about the black community and the mistakes that they make and everything else, if you did not do these things, then go to court. If you believe in all of these things in the system and in all fairness, then you should have went to court and you should have pleaded your case. Plead your case. He did not do that. So ESPN cut ties from him. I'm not surprised that this is happening. I think for the most part, ESPN is trying to protect their brand. I'm not surprised that ESPN cut ties from him. ESPN is owned by Disney. They are a multi-billion-dollar corporation. They are not going to allow something like that to affect their brand. They're just not. They don't care how many followers he has. They don't care how big his nightcap show or whatever. They do not want their image. They do not want their image. If I'm being honest, I believe that no matter had this went to court or if this was settled, ESPN was going to cut ties from him, point blank, period. I think had it went to court and it was a good outcome for Shannon Sharpe, maybe they would have gave him suspension and brought him back as a, hey, we wanted you to get your stuff together. Everything's looking good, but the settlement just does not look good. The settlement makes it seem as though you did these things and it doesn't look good for the brand. So they cut ties from him. The conversation that is irritating me is Monique tried to warn him. Monique did warn him. She did say you need to leave them white girls alone, but she also said that he should date black women. He need to find him an older black mammy. Basically, that's what Monique said. Find you a black woman who can cook and rub your feet. That's what she said. You all who are arguing that he should have been dating a black woman, like you should have left the milk of magnesia alone. This is what happened. It's not just that, because plenty of others date white women and they do not do these things. So what Shannon Sharpe did to this woman was the cause of the lawsuit. Point blank, period. Now we can have a conversation about when black women talk about things that they have experienced, their trauma, and accuse folks of stuff, how they are treated, i.e. Megan Thee Stallion, how she's been treated, even how her boyfriend Clay Thompson is being treated right now for simply dating Megan Thee Stallion. Like, it's a lot of misogynoir happening. What we're talking about is how Shannon Sharpe treated this woman and what she is accusing him of. So no, you saying you should have dated a black woman does not help this, because the thing is how he treated this person. So for y'all to be on this blackity black train and putting a black woman in harm's way to prove a point is quite disgusting, if I'm being honest. It's quite disgusting. I don't want to see any woman be harmed in that type of way if what she is saying is true. The things that she is saying about Shannon Sharpe are true. I don't want it to be a black woman or even a white woman. I don't want it to happen to women, point blank, period. And that is something that we should be arguing, is that we don't want to see any woman harmed, because if a woman who is non-black is experiencing harm, what do you think a black woman is going to experience? It's going to be handed down. The system that allows women to experience these things, we should be critiquing. That's what we should be having a conversation about. Women are treated these ways because of misogyny, because of cis heteropatriarchy, all of these things. That's what we should be having a conversation about, how they get away with things like this. I just finished watching What's Love Got to Do with It, the movie about Tina Turner's life based off of her book, and classic cis heteropatriarchy, what Tina Turner was experiencing in her relationship with Ike Turner at the time. So we need to move away from it. Yes, Monique, again, made a comment and said something about, hey, you need to leave those white women alone. Even the comedian Cat Williams went on Shannon Sharpe's show and told him that, hey, white women will end your career in a weekend. Look what happened to Kang the Conqueror.
Record, edit, and share your content all in one place with Riverside. One touch recording in crisp 4K. And finesse it with idiot-proof editing. Clean up audio like magic, with plenty of ways to make it your own. You can generate viral clips auto-magically, so you can post with confidence and blow your audience away. Meet your end-to-end content creation platform, Riverside. Try it for free.
I didn't want to get with a white woman because I was scared she might have me running down the street like Jonathan Majors.
Come on, cat. We need to stop using Emmett Till as a reason for these things happening. Yes, there is a thing that allows white women to get away with things. White tears. We can get into a conversation about this. But we also need to acknowledge that men do things like this, whether the woman is white or black. Period. The fact that so many are unknowingly saying that this would have been better had this been a black woman says a lot. The way y'all are saying you should have got a young black girl. So we're putting young black women in harm's way in the pursuit of pro-blackness. For what? Y'all are willing to abandon black women, young black women, to prove what? Like, what does that say? Like, hello, what is going on? Like, this is why the argument hits about how men, for the most part, are not interested in ending white supremacy. They just want to be white men. They just want to have the power. It's not the same objective. It's about them having the ability to get away and do these same things. They're mad that they cannot do it and get away with it. That's why you'll see Vlad TV interviews and other interviews. Oh, well, what about such and such? What about Hugh Hefner? And what about homeboy who's in jail who had that multimedia company, the movie company? I can't think of his name, who's in jail right now. Y'all do not want to eradicate these things. Y'all want to benefit from them. Like, girl, it's giving Hunger Games, and we need to be shooting y'all with a bow and arrow, to be honest, because y'all want to repeat the same cycle. Like, it's not making sense. So we're not getting anything from folks saying that this is what happens when you date a white woman. No, what? That critique just does not land. It does not land. And just saying that this is what happened when you date white women. We need to be interrogating why men like Shannon Sharpe are interested in white women who are way younger than him and want to perform these type of plays with these women. That is something we need to be having a conversation with. We're missing the moment. We're missing.
Yeah, I can hear what you're saying. You finna roll it? We're gonna go to this no jumper clip about it, and then we gonna go to Anton Daniels real quick, and we gonna get up out of here, man.
Everybody be asking me, man, does the Bluetooth actually work?
Bro, you get a month for free.
It's free. You can get 1 month for free. So you got nothing to lose and you got everything to gain.
Try it, and you're gonna like it.
First month is free. Get in.
Shannon Sharpe was fired from ESPN after settling with an OnlyFans model for $23 million. ESPN aggressively pursuing Chad Ochocinco to replace Shannon Sharpe because he does nightly shows with Shannon, and they would like to retain Shannon's audience. How y'all feel about that?
Wait, play the clip of Shannon talking about it.
More money than he made.
You're about to roll it? You're about to roll it, right? I'll roll it right now in a second. It's on, Jim. Yeah, no. Finish it. I'll just let it play.
During the duration of the day.
Wait, is the clip gonna go to it?
Get started.
Yeah, press play.
Come on, Shay.
Started. Obviously, I'm sure everybody's heard the news by now that I will not be returning to ESPN. I found out this information a little earlier in the week, and really the only thing that I really ask is, like, guys, could we wait until Monday? My brother's going into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I really wanted to be about him, and I wanted to be about my family. I know this coming out will overshadow everything that he's worked his entire life for. And unfortunately, it didn't happen that way. And so as I told him, as I profusely apologized to him earlier today, he said, bro, stop apologizing. You don't have to apologize. I'm your big bro. I'm going to love you regardless. We all make mistakes. And he says, bro, I love you. So I'm done with this. You're done with it too. Move on. And I really enjoyed my time at ESPN. It gave me an opportunity to bring my audience that saw me really just grow. They saw me, Lakers in 5, and they saw me say all these analogies that my grandparents gave me. And I was able to bring that to ESPN. So I'm very, very grateful for that. But I just wished, of all things, like I said, hey, they did what they felt they needed to do. And I'm at peace with that. But I just wish, guys, this thing could have waited until Monday, because I hate the fact that I'm overshadowing my brother, the first two brothers in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And this is what the headline's going to be for the next couple of days. So, bro, again, I know you told me this, I don't have to apologize, but I'm going to do it with fame.
And a pause. So look, there's
about to say his brother was tighter than him.
Yeah. There's like multiple things here. So I guess like the first thing would be your general take on this, and the second thing would be, if Chad Ochocinco does move into the Shannon Sharpe recurring role, would that be a snake? Because I know when DC Young Fly had the option to replace Nick Cannon, DC said, "I'm not replacing my brother. Not happening. I'm not doing this." So yeah,
I respect that.
Huh?
Ocho?
Well, look, yeah, right. And that's the question. Your general take on the Shannon Sharpe thing, and then if Ocho does step in the recurring role as Shannon Sharpe, he does like the 3 days that Shannon was doing. Would y'all look at that as betraying Shannon or backstabbing?
To answer your first question, my general take on the Shannon Sharpe situation is maybe he just settled out because he just wanted to stay on ESPN.
Man, I ain't buying that at all.
Like obviously, you would want to fight against something that you didn't want to, that you definitely didn't do.
To me, he guilty.
You think he's guilty because he just settled out?
Then listen, bro.
Guilty of what?
If you lose $100 million podcast deal, you lost your job already. You was on a brief hiatus. You already got all the details of the accusation out there, the messages, the everything. And you allegedly gave the bitch $23 million. Man, cut it out.
But I think
hold on.
I think you're under. I think you're
Hold on,
under. But you said
I was gonna say
allegedly
one
too.
thing. Did he settle? Didn't he settle before they fired him?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm saying maybe he just settled out because he didn't want to go through that situation to get fired.
I think that's here's the
Exactly.
thing. I think
making fun of
Flacco. I think you're underestimating the amount of people that can fulfill that role and could be in that same position as him, and that would be less of a liability. So from a corporate perspective, it makes sense to. He's very replaceable.
There's no one who's replacing him.
Yeah, nobody's replacing him. Sharpe is dope.
Pat McAfee and Shannon Sharpe are the two biggest sports commentators in the world right now.
And I want to say Gilbert Arenas too. I like Gilbert Arenas.
But that doesn't mean that there's not.
Yeah, but Gil is not
not at all.
Gilbert is not as smart as Shannon Sharpe.
Shannon Sharpe is
Shannon Sharpe is great, but I still think from a corporate perspective, when you're talking about hundreds of $1 million,
so then why settle then?
Because because the thing is this, he had no choice.
You ain't replaceable.
I mean, you got a choice if you really didn't do it.
He settled for expediency. He was trying to get it over and done with before football season started. That was very clear from the onset. Shannon Sharpe was like, do I go to court, lose money when I could settle and in the same time span make a bunch of money, damn near make the money I lost back? They blindsided him with the firing, and I believe that's because ESPN is moving more towards like a feminine like angle. They got a lot of female hosts on there now. They're trying to appeal to a wider market. So they just got rid of him for political reasons and optics. But yeah, Ocho is not going on ESPN because one, Ocho is not a very good commentator. The reason Ocho works is because Shannon Sharpe has enough respect from Ocho to where Ocho allows Sharpe to rein him in and keep him focused. Ocho is not a commentator.
Ain't that a snake move though? If Ocho winds up like fulfilling that role,
no,
I think it is.
No, because if you come from the culture of football, a lot of dudes get like traded or cut, and then somebody they know come and take their spot.
So it's like I said before. So it's like I said before, his role is essentially very replaceable.
If I was
so it's
Shannon,
like my initial point.
If I
you just support
if you put it in that perspective though, like it's football,
they're not
trades and all of that. Yeah, I can feel
when
it.
you say it's very they're going to replace Shannon Sharpe with a female. I'm telling you that right now. But the thing is, if you look at
Lisa
football,
Leslie's finna replace him or what? Like
there's females who could comment on sports, on football, and everything.
Kind of boring. I'm just saying, like, who could
there are women who are football analysts and basketball analysts. They can replace them with either one or two women and probably pay them less because they're less of household names. But what I'm telling you is, football is one of those things that's based on meritocracy. So you get that hater up out of your blood very early on. So I think Shannon Sharpe would rather than replace him with someone he knows, because he also
what they got to do with meritocracy. Though.
Listen,
it's not a meritocracy.
Listen, let me say this.
What the f does that mean?
It's like one way of thinking. But that's true. But listen, would you listen?
Second word of the day.
Think about this. You're replaced, right? But you're replaced by a person who you got under contract for a show that you produce and make the money from. So that means you're still bringing that same attention from ESPN to that show that he's on with Ocho Cinco. Shannon Sharpe would prefer Ocho to replace him, but they're not going to hire him to replace Shannon Sharpe.
But is that still snaking though? I feel what you're saying. Like,
that's my
honestly, that makes sense. Like, all right,
That's
I'd rather
keeping it in
my
the
boy
family.
do it so I can get the shit from him.
That's keeping it in the family.
But
That's snaking.
if he didn't talk to Shannon Sharpe about it, would you think that's snaking?
Is Lush continuing to work at No Jumper snaking because after they fire suspect?
It's a good question.
Hey, you look at Lush and Lush is look. That's a good question. That's a good. Hey, Lush, you're out.
I rest my case, dude.
Dooring is a cyclist's worst nightmare. Being doored is when a car door unexpectedly opens in front of a cyclist, causing injury or even worse. Better infrastructure and better awareness can help prevent these types of accidents. Experts suggest creating more designated bike lanes where part of the road is set aside just for bicyclists. An even safer option is a protected bike lane where cyclists are separated from motorists. Cyclists, stay vigilant. Look for shadows, brake lights, turn signals, any movement from a parked car to stay safe. Drivers, check your mirrors before you exit your car. Try to adopt the Dutch reach. That's when you use your opposite arm to reach for the handle, causing you to look over your shoulder. If you've been hurt in a bike accident, reach out to our winning team. In 2023, Sweet James's winning team of attorneys recovered $9 million for a deserving client that was hurt in a bike accident.
If you've been hurt out on the road, don't wait. Take action now or call for a free consultation.
Hey, Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. Did you know that Mint's unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month is back?
Who is this?
I told you it's Ryan Reynolds.
This seems like a scam text.
This isn't a scam text.
If this is another wellness tea thing, I'm out.
Seriously, Mint's offering unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month right now. This isn't some pyramid scheme. There's no catch. It's just a great deal.
That's what someone who runs a pyramid scheme would say.
I don't even know how I got into this group chat.
What's going on is Anton from AntonDaniels.com. I appreciate you guys for continuing to rock with me. I want to give you guys an update and bring you up to speed on what's going on with this Shannon Sharpe situation. Per The Athletic, ESPN has cut ties with Shannon Sharpe less than 2 weeks after he settled a lawsuit in which his ex-girlfriend accused him of rape. Sources tell Andrew Marchand. Sharpe has not been on the network since late April. ESPN declined to comment. Now, let me give y'all a little bit of an update, right? And that Shannon Sharpe stepped away from ESPN. And I also got to give Jason Whitlock a little bit of credit because a while ago, Jason Whitlock actually called it. He said that Shannon Sharpe is not going to be going back to ESPN. And I vividly remember it because I was thinking to myself, I don't know. Shannon Sharpe is a pretty good asset. And in my opinion, you know, a lot of things can be overlooked when you're bringing in ratings. A lot of things can be overlooked when you're generating revenue for the network. They're willing to endure with you or maybe not, right? Because obviously we see that they don't see that Shannon Sharpe is valuable enough to the brand, to the Disney brand. Because remember, ESPN is owned by Disney. He is not valuable enough to the Disney brand for them to continue to do business with him. Now, I am also pretty sure, because that's the way that things goes like this, I'm pretty sure that in his contract, there was a provision that highlighted how, you know, ESPN wouldn't necessarily be liable for keeping him on the network if he found himself at the behest or in a situation where his integrity or his reputation were called into question. And this is one of the reasons why it's important for us to have this conversation, is that dick discipline. And I'm going to say it again for the people in the back. Dick discipline is highly important for guys that get into a situation or find themselves where they are very much valued or they generating revenue or they got a lot of motion. There is nothing like a chick, a baddie, a snow bunny, whatever you want to call them. There is nothing like a woman to stop the motion that has a highly, very, very highly efficient fleecing lawyer on their side to help themselves retire at your behest. And they successfully did it. They successfully finessed. I don't believe that Shannon Sharpe was guilty of the things he was being accused. But when you are a public figure, it really doesn't matter whether or not you believe it or not. The only thing that matters is public perception and whether or not you are going to be a hindrance to the brands you do business with. Now, I also seen that Shannon Sharpe, while he was going through his proceedings to where he was being sued for $50 million, and then the chick ultimately wind up leaving OnlyFans the day after the settlement. And I'm pretty sure that Tony Busby, who was the lawyer that was representing the woman, secured a pretty big bag. But the point that I'm making here is this, and I want to pivot over because I'm gonna go over to the Daily Mail, and I want to break down because Tony Busby is slamming the ESPN star's claim that he targeted black men after settling the $50 million lawsuit. Now, let me break down how women do this, right? And how these guys get finessed a lot of times because they simps, they suckers, they don't see a chick that's trying to finesse them. And I told guys while they were sitting there talking about how great snow bunnies are, how great they are when they're much younger. Listen, when you got motion, when you got clout, when you're visible, even when you're not, if you're just a man of significance, that can cost you. It can cost you a lot. Again, I don't believe that Shannon Sharpe did a lot of the things that they were accusing him of. I believe the goal was to finesse him from the very beginning, and that's why she had the recordings. And so a lot of times they see you coming. They see you coming from a mile away, and they already start setting the trap, and all you got to do is walk right into it. And because a lot of us guys don't know how to absolve ourselves from finding ourselves in a situation where chicks can finesse us, because the only thing we see is the box, we see this type of situation happen. So it goes on to say Tony Busby, the high-profile lawyer who represented Shannon Sharpe's rape accuser, has hit back at the NFL legend's claims that he targets black men. Sharpe, the tight end turned ESPN star, recently settled the $50 million lawsuit. Obviously, per the Athletic, he's no longer with ESPN. Identified as an ex-girlfriend, retracted her accusation. Now, remember, if somebody actually did something to this extent, right? If somebody actually did this to you, would you be looking to get justice for yourself, or would you only be looking to get a bag in order to retract a statement? Let's keep that in mind. Goes on to say the case filed in Nevada in April initially alleged that the Hall of Famer did that to Jane Doe on October 24th, and then again in January. Sharpe denied the accusations, calling the lawsuit a shakedown, and back in April, he accused Busby of targeting black men. I'm going to be open, transparent, and defend myself because this isn't right. Sharpe said this is all being orchestrated by Tony Busby, who has targeted Jay-Z. Tony Busby targets black men. Busby has become one of America's most famous lawyers, having been at the center of big money cases involving the likes of Sean Diddy Combs and NFL quarterback Deshaun Watson. Goes on to say in recent years, Busby also sued BP over an oil spill, earning his firm more than $500 million and won a $640 million verdict in a wrongful death against one of the country's biggest crane companies. Busby was himself sued by Jay-Z for extortion and defamation, but the case was dismissed earlier this month. In response to Sharpe's claims or allegations, he told Esquire, I guess a bunch of old white men could say I'm targeting them, and a bunch of multinational corporations could say that I'm targeting them as well. I guess you could say I was targeting black people as well. I was probably targeting BP. I was targeting BP. He continued, I didn't wake up one morning and say I want to sue Shannon Sharpe. He has no relevance in my life, and he's throwing shots. I actually think he's very entertaining, and when he yells and screams and talk about sports that he's not involved in, but I think it's a legitimate case, but if I think it's a legitimate case, then I pursue it, and I think this is worth my time. So he is basically out here running up a bag. He's running up a bag, and he's one of those type of people. The only person that I've actually seen call out Tony Busby is Vlad. Vlad was the only person that called him out that I seen to his face on a Piers Morgan interview / debate, whatever. But the point is that when you are a public figure, you are a target. You are a target for lawsuits. You're a target for women. You're a target for visibility. And so when I say, yo, listen, all box ain't good box, that we have to have a level of dick discipline, that we can't find ourselves under duress or losing out on money, because that is money that should be allocated to our families. That is money that should be allocated to the people that are closest to us. That is money that should be allocated to us. We cannot, under any circumstance, there is no bag worth or no broad worth taking the risk of losing a bag over because she pretty or she beautiful or she young, I'm straight. I'm married to the game. I'm married to my money. I'm married to my purpose. I'm only humble to God. And so I focus 100% on those things. And that's the lesson that I think that we should get from this is that the minute that you even get accused, your reputation, regardless of whether you did it or not, your reputation is enough to take. And then unfortunately, we also have people out here that's wishing on his downfall. I never wish for a man to lose a bag. I never wish for a man to die, and I would never wish for a man to go to jail without him having his day in court. And so, it's funny. I see people wishing bad on him. I see women talking down on him, saying that he deserved it. I don't think that he deserved it, but at the same time, there's always learned lessons that got to come along with it. I will keep you guys updated on everything that's happening in popular culture, especially when it comes to the money. But more importantly, we got to do things differently. We got to adjust because the demons is out there, and the lawyers are definitely making sure they get their day in court. I love you. I appreciate you. Y'all let me know what y'all think about Shannon Sharpe getting released from ESPN per The Athletic. I love you. I appreciate you. I'm going to holler at you guys later. Peace.
Breaking news. Uncle Shay Shay, Shannon Sharpe, is officially out at ESPN after settling the $50 million lawsuit with that unsavory digital lady of the night. Guys, this one is one of those ones that it stings. You know what I mean? When you see a man that represents a component of what it is that you represent or what you look like fall from the grace because of the inability to control his eggplant. And it needs to be talked about because these things happen way more often than we would like to admit. The taking advantage of men of position and or power, running the jokes on them, running the play on them. But then when it comes from a law perspective, or at least trying to settle to get your name out of the news, the media, what have you, there are still going to be consequences to your actions, even if you are 110% innocent. What is it that we are talking about specifically? According to Spiritual World, let's read. ESPN has terminated its relationship with the NFL Hall of Famer and media analyst Shannon Sharpe less than 2 weeks after he settled a lawsuit filed by an ex-girlfriend accusing him of R. According to the sources cited by The Athletic, that is the sub-column to the New York Times, I believe. Sharpe, who has denied the allegations, has been absent from ESPN since the lawsuit was filed in late April of 2025. He had initially planned to return at the start of the NFL training camp. Remember, he had that video that he released shortly after the allegations came out where he talked about he's going to take a step back. Well, it looks like ESPN is not letting him back in. But ESPN has now cut ties with him. The network declined to comment on the decision. Yeah, they will not comment. This isn't a good year for Shay Shay, and it's crazy because 2024 was one of the best years for Shay Shay, starting off the beginning of the year with the Cat Williams interview, which put his podcast component of his career on the map. And a year and a half later, this man is suffering a fall from grace, unlike what we've seen before. Actually, I lie when I say that. We've seen this happening a lot of times before. Men losing points, positions, roles due to lack of eggplant control. A ninja pushing 60, letting a 20-year-old white woman trick him off a generational bag he was about to get from ESPN. Yeah, too late in the game to be having these type of mistakes happen to you. I agree with that comment. And still had to come off that money, shaking my head with a couple of different memes. All that for some mayonnaise on your elbow. All right, I think I've had enough of the casual racism from this side of the internet. Funny enough, I just did a piece of content on Joey Swoll getting into trouble for saying colored people. Meanwhile, these are the same people that be down at Joey Swoll's comments on this side of the internet talking about mayonnaise on elbow. What if Joey Swoll said tar on elbow? He would have gotten canceled 20 times over again. Nevertheless, I'm getting off point and track here. Let me go through some of these news stories that I have as well. Looks like from the New York Post, they're saying, again, that it's over for him at ESPN after settling the lawsuit. Shannon Sharpe, 57, who joined First Take in fall of 2023, had to step away from the network back in April due to the wake of allegations. Is that all that they had up there? What a ridiculous. Anyway, I wanted to go over this video as well. It is a sportscaster, sports announcer talking through the implications, and I thought he brought up some really, really good points. So let's get after it.
The Shannon Sharpe situation, one of the biggest stories for anyone who pays attention to the NFL, and for good reason. Hall of Fame tight end and a very popular and successful media personality. As the case continues to unfold, and he was sued for sexual assault and other claims over the weekend, he's been very clear. He denies everything.
He has.
And his lawyer has come out and admitted that a $10 million offer, at least $10 million offer, was made to settle the case before it became public. Now we're getting to the point where it's having an impact on his current employment. Sharpe announced yesterday he'll be stepping aside from ESPN until the start of the NFL preseason. He currently, or at least was, appearing on First Take twice per week, Monday and Tuesday. That's over until the start of the NFL preseason, assuming ESPN even allows him to return, because Deadline.com reported that ESPN was going to sideline him, and Deadline was about to report that. Boom, Sharpe pivots, and he voluntarily steps aside. There's a PR game to all of this, and I'm not trying to say that Sharpe walked before they made him run, but you could come to that conclusion if ESPN's getting ready to bench him maybe beyond the start of the NFL preseason.
Just to put it in perspective, the $50 million case is more than what he's made in his entire NFL career. That's how ridiculous that it is. But the $50 million was based off of purely the amount of accolades or how widely known that his name is in the media, then coming back with a proposed $10 million settlement. Nobody knows what the inevitable settlement was, although I've seen rumors that it was up to $20 million that he handed over to that unsavory digital strumpet of a lady. But ESPN's response to the situation, I'm sure Shannon Sharpe has known about this for a long time, and it also makes sense why we never saw Stephen A. Smith just ardently defend Shannon Sharpe, because he knew at the point of allegation where this was heading. And I think ESPN would have gotten rid of him even if he took it to trial and got found not guilty. But even if he did take it to trial, let's say, and got found not guilty, well, then that's years that he would have been benched. So he still would have lost his job. Anyway, I'm just trying to highlight to you guys the importance of reducing your risk when it comes out here to dealing with women, because at the point of accusation, that's all that's needed to ruin your career. That's all that's needed in order to ruin your life. And at the point of accusation, because we're still in a hashtag believe all women environment, the consequences for even being accused may end everything that you worked for. Let's continue.
None of this is surprising, though. It took on a different vibe when it was disclosed that he offered $10 million. And I know that his lawyer, Lanny Davis, strenuously objects to my characterization that it's very hard to reconcile a loud insistence of innocence with, I offered at least $10 million to settle the claim. But when you hear that kind of number, I think it raises the stakes for ESPN and anybody else that's going to do business with Shannon Sharpe. And then you throw on top of it, Front Office Sports reported on Thursday that there was an incident at Fox when he was working for FS1. Now, the report was that there was an alleged choking of a female coworker. Sharpe's representative said there was no choking. It was playful interaction, but there was reportedly a settlement. And it's unclear when that happened, but this is what occurs when the cat gets out of the bag. Media starts looking for other things. I see there's already some other report. I haven't had a chance to take a look at it yet, but there's going to be more. And you just wonder what kind of impact it's going to have. And I don't know that 20 million instead of 10 million would have settled the case and kept all this stuff from coming to light. I really don't know. But the fact that 10 million was put on the table, that still continues to be significant. I saw someone talking about the $10 million offer in analytical, objective terms that this is what you do when you try to put a settlement value on a case. She wants 50 million. You've got a certain percentage chance you're going to win or
It's
lose.
mathematical.
You've got a certain amount of legal fees. So you justify as a business proposition
10 million makes
offering 10
sense.
million. I don't think that was it here.
I don't agree with this brother at all. I think that's exactly what happened. I think that it was consensual as shit. And Shannon and his lawyers got together in a room and said, okay, what can we do to make this go away? Because the math states that if I pay her $10 million now, ESPN doesn't know about this. I still get what was proposed at the time up to $100 million. And I think that was just from the podcast perspective. Who knows how many tens of millions of dollars would have came from ESPN. So to pay 10 million to make it all go away, because they did have some video of you, they did have some audio of you, and they did have text message. As loose as the evidence is, it's still reputation destruction that may have been worth 10 million at the time, in consideration how much that he could have earned at that time and in going into the future.
In a lot of cases, there are specific dollar figures that attach to the damages. If there's a car accident, the medical bills, the lost wages while you miss work, those are all clear, undeniable expenses that were incurred by the car accident.
Okay.
And that becomes part of the foundation for determining the settlement value of the case.
Sure.
For something like this, where there's no bill that was paid, no wages that were lost, no special damages. I know the complaint refers to 10 million in special damages, but it's just numbers that Tony Busby threw together. 10 million in general damages, 10 million in statutory fines, whatever those are, 10 million in special damages, 20 million in punitive damage. You can put any number you want. It's going to be what the jury ultimately gives you. So this isn't some careful mathematical exercise where, well, she wants 50 million and our percentage of prevailing at trial based upon the current trends for juries in Nevada, and it's going to cost whatever to defend the case. It's a pretty simple case. I don't know how much lawyers are charging now. I saw someone suggest it's going to be 8 million to defend them. Maybe I should say.
I feel like I need this guy's job. No, sir. What you're forgetting is the reputation destruction. What you forget is discovery. What you forget is that we now know that Uncle Shay Shay likes the soles of his feet looking towards the ceiling as he gets the inner sanctum of his behind eaten out. Right now we know that one of his best friends calls and watched him get sloppy toppy from the young OF assassin. All right, the carnivorous woman. Now we know these things. You cannot continue to work for something owned by Disney with these allegations on your back. It just doesn't work like that. In order to be a newscaster within mainstream media, right, an anchor, whatever it is that you want to call it, you need a degree of like this polished, squeaky image, whether it's true or not. And that's because they are beholden to the ad sponsors, the advertisers. At the end of the day, these sponsors want to run ads on networks more when there's not any controversy in regards to the person that is hosting, facilitating these different shows. That's why it's so damn ridiculous that at his tender old age was still leading this life, practicing race play with a young lady that was waiting for the opportune time to sink her carnivorous talons into his wallet. You could literally see the play from a million miles away. Thinking that an NDA was going to stop her is insane to me. All right.
See you later and go back to practicing law. It's a pretty simple case. You got two main witnesses. It's not going to take a whole lot of time to prepare this case for trial. There's going to be a whole lot of pre-trial motion practice with long, lengthy documents and legal research. I'd say at the very most, it's $500,000. And even then, that's putting the thumb on the scale a little bit, in my opinion. But if it's anywhere close to 8 million, you may never see me again. I'm going to do a little research over the weekend. Maybe it behooves me to go back to practicing law. And I don't mean to make light of the situation, but this is part of the overall analysis. I believe that disclosing the $10 million that was offered to the plaintiff before she filed the lawsuit was
done.
a tactical error. It was a PR blunder, because the average person, I don't believe, can say, I understand why you'd offer that kind of money to fight a blackmailer, and I understand why you would tell the world that you did it. That's the bigger flaw. It's one thing to do it. It's another thing to say, hey, I offered $10 million to this person who I think is blackmailing me over a completely false claim. I just don't think that's how
If you're struggling to edit your podcast, it's not you, it's your tools. So let's check out how Riverside makes editing super simple. Your podcast transcript is here, and you just have to edit the text, and that will edit the podcast. Super simple. You'll never edit your podcast the old way again. No podcaster has the time to clean up an hour-long conversation. That's why God gave us AI. All these are ums and awkward silences. 2 clicks, and they're gone. And to help promote your show, Riverside finds all the best parts of your podcast and turns them into social clips automatically. I mean, why would you edit the old way when you can edit with Riverside? You got to check out Riverside. You can even start for free.
Reasonable person, or most reasonable people, would handle that type of a predicament.
Yeah, I mean, it's reasonable if you have nothing embarrassing, right, that the blackmailer is trying to come out with. And, you know, part of this can also be, hey, listen, if you engage in this, then you damn sure better not bend the knee to terrorists. All right, because if you're innocent, 1,000% innocent, then you must be prepared to fight. But within that fight, we already know how the majority of men are treated, whether it be in media or just in general society today. Even when all of the evidence is there, you are guilty at the point of accusation. Even when the BuzzFeed gentleman came out with all of this information, right? She didn't hide the OF, right? She didn't private the IG account. Someone who is really this disturbed in regards to the actions of Shannon Sharpe would have gone into hiding, but no. There you go, Google her name. You go look up on the IG, and right up in the IG in the bio is a link to her OF. The millions of dollars that she has earned, not only in the settlement, but then also still providing the link, because at the time, this was like the most Googled story, is absolutely insane. I am here to say it is not outside the realm of plausibility that she has earned over $50 million when it's all said and done. Absolutely ridiculous way to not only throw away your own bag, but also give a bag to a damn Super Saiyan harlot. I do hope that both men and women that follow this content here today, that you can take a look at this and hope that we can do better. All right. For all the ladies, the MTRs that are down up in there, send the content over to your son, your brother, your uncle, your father, so that we can begin to have these conversations or continue to have these conversations about the negative implications of not having D-control. And all my guys, this is what it is. Albeit because of the spotlight or the focus on Shannon Sharpe, the dollar amount seems absurd, but this happens at a smaller scale, at a smaller level so often. Shit, I even talk about within my own content where I was falsely accused of some shit. So albeit today is just a bad day for Shannon Sharpe, and I think that it's a bad day for the image of men everywhere. I hate the way that this case was inevitably handled, but I do hope that you all learn a life lesson from the way that Uncle Shay Shay conducted himself. There's some consequences to being a nasty ass unk at the end of it. Guys, drop me your question, comments, as well as concerns down in the comment box down below. Let me know what you guys think about his inevitable firing from ESPN and dropping that incredible, generous bag. Until next time, peace.
She belongs to the street.
Girl, don't hold my hand. You a mattress actress on the OnlyFans. Get your money, girl, but damn, how is that your only plan? What you gonna do when you get too old to strip and dance? Get up out your echo chamber screaming period and yes, you a low down dirty woman if you try to get knocked up by a high value man.
I'd have to really work at thinking of something negative
Mhm.
that Dad did. But
Well, what about? let me ask this though. I mean, Dad also came home, put his feet up. He didn't always cook. He didn't do dishes. He didn't do.
But you have to remember that I was thinking at the time that was okay because he was at work all day and he needed to rest, and Mom was always cooking. So, but that's a good one. That's a good potential negative.
Gender roles very clear.
Very clear gender roles.
The man was having a hard time in order to figure out some of the negatives that their father went through to provide for the family. And here goes Michelle with all her damn feminism. Meanwhile, it worked for your family. I did not think that the content gods was going to bless us like this here today, but here we are. Michelle Obama. She's got a podcast. We've been going over content of her podcast several times in the past couple of months, but she just got the man up there, the previous leader of the free world, her husband, Barack Obama. Now, this comes on the back of not only divorce rumors between the two, but then also recent controversy revolving around Michelle Obama's comments when asked by Angie Martinez, would you have wanted to raise a boy? And she said, no, would have been like another Barack, receiving criticism from this side of the internet as to say, well, what do you mean by that? What's so negative about having a black man, another man that can ascend to the leader of the free world? How dare you utilize your platform to degrade his brand, his image? Nevertheless, they sat down and have this conversation. And I will say that the majority of it, and this is probably as of a result of the controversy, they focused on what being a man is. They focused on transitioning boys into men. They focused on single parent upbringing. Yeah. So we're going to get into this conversation. Oh, by the way, they also talked about the manosphere. Let's get active on this conversation. So without further ado, now to start off the podcast, they're addressing the rumors in regards to the marriage and divorce. Let's listen.
These are the kinds of things that I just miss. Right. So I don't even know this stuff's going on.
Right.
And then somebody will mention it to me and I'm all like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
There hasn't been one moment in our marriage where I thought about quitting my man. And we've had some really hard times. So we have had a lot of fun times, a lot of adventures, and I have become a better person because of the man I'm married to.
Okay. Don't make me cry now. Right at the beginning of the show.
Oh, that's sweet.
Don't let me start tearing up now.
And welcome to IMO.
Welcome to IMO. Get you all teared up. See, but this is why I can't talk. See, you can take the hard stuff, but when I start talking about the sweet stuff, you're like, stop, no, I can't do it.
No, I love it. I'm enjoying it.
But thank you, honey, for being on our show. Thanks for making the time. We got, as
you guys
Craig
are doing
said, we
good.
got a great
Of course I've been listening.
Yeah, what, any
Love it.
tips? Any
Stop defaming.
observations?
Craig can tighten up a little bit.
That's actually funny.
You're doing great.
Thanks, honey. And that's why we're married.
Okay. All right. So listen, I wanted to at least show that part right there because I wanted to hear from them in regards to these marriage, divorce rumors. But let's flash forward a little bit where Barack begins to talk about growing up without a father and what being a man means then versus now.
All right, here's how you are a dad. And I didn't really have a bunch of uncles around or other immediate family father figures. So I'm kind of piecing it together. And
which is true for so many. That's the story for so many boys growing up these days.
I mean, in that sense, I think as unusual as my background was, that part of it isn't that unusual, right? It was kind of typical.
Yeah.
And
still is, even more so now.
I think a couple of things happened. Now, I was loved, and that's a starting point, right? The people who were around me cared about me, and I never felt an absence of that. And the second thing I think you learn to do when you're in that situation is, all right, I got to sort of, I have to adopt role models. I got to piece them together and get a sense of, all right, what does it mean to be a man? Now, later on, as I got older, you'd start recognizing that some of the ideas about manhood that were being given to us back in the 70s and the 80s, not all of them were great, right?
Can I ask you both to talk about what manhood meant for you? What it meant for you when you were little boys coming up, what you thought it was, and what you then came to understand it to actually be?
Well, I don't remember maybe when I was a really young child, other than the idea that guys were strong, they didn't whine, they were tough.
They were expected to go to work.
They worked
and provide,
right?
And protect.
Yes,
I know it sound that bad.
And I think back about that. I think when I'm thinking about Dad as a role model, I remember the fact that here you have a man who has MS, and he's getting up and he's going to work absolutely every day.
Right.
And he is not complaining. That's another thing. Men didn't complain.
You don't
back then.
complain. You're stoic.
You were now. I love that word, stoic. Coach Carmody used to use that all the time, stoic. But our dad never complained. He never got up. He had a sense of humor. That was another thing that you learned from guys, is that you needed a sense of humor. Right. But one of the most important things that I remember is that you got along.
Got along.
You got along.
Period.
Period. You got along with the other guys you were with. You got along with your teammates.
I ain't gonna lie, I'm less interested in his comments, but nevertheless, let's get back to Barack's comments there. What I found interesting is that Barack is saying, some of the ideals that were instilled back in the 70s and the 80s was not ideal, and then went on to describe fantastic qualities of men. I find that very interesting. Now, I will say from my own perspective, I grew up in a single father situation. So I had the best example of man and fatherhood, and that was my pops. Everything that they said right there. He was a hard-ass worker, structured as hell, objective as hell, logical as hell, and he got to the work. He got it done. And as a young boy looking at him and reflecting his image, it was a fantastic example. Now, what I will say is that, again, the majority of men growing up in America do not have that experience because a father like my father wasn't present, or just a father in general. But specific to the bad messages, I would say one of the bad messages that I received early on, and this wasn't from my father, because when my dad was a single father, I never saw women around at all. He was focused on me. But the idea of the more bodies that you got, the more viscous innards that you take down, the more manly, and almost to a degree where it's almost like a competition. I would say that those are some of the bad images, and reflecting that within your masculinity, as if you are more masculine, the more box or viscous innards that you get access to is not a good branding to upkeep within masculinity. Quick emergency meeting. I was recently searching for my name online and found way too much personal information, which brought me down this weird rabbit hole of how that could have happened, and found out that there's companies out there called data brokers that will sell your data to marketers, scammers, and even stalkers. And it's a nasty, disgusting feeling knowing that there's bad actors out there selling my information, selling your information for profit. But that's why I'm recommending today's sponsor, Aura. Now, I use Aura to automatically remove my information from these sites and keep my information off. But they do other things as well, such as bank fraud and identity theft alerts, VPN access. But guys, utilize my link down in the description box down below for a 14-day trial. At least see if you've been compromised. Privacy is king in this day and age, and you should know if your information is out there. So again, utilize my link, aura.com/MTR, in the description box down below to try 2 weeks free. That's way more than enough time to see if your personal data has been exposed. Go now. Let's keep on listening.
You got along with your coworkers. Nobody wanted to be considered a jerk.
That is true. Some of the definitions of manhood, I think, were negative, right? You don't whine, you don't cry.
No emotion.
You're not a jerk. I do like the thing you brought up though about being a.
How is that negative? No, you're not supposed to whine. You're not supposed to be a victim. You're not supposed to act pathetic. You're not supposed to complain, or more accurately, over complain. And I would argue that the current modern young man of today gets more of these references that it's okay to be a victim. It's okay to be this over complainer. It's okay to simp. It's okay to display and, let all your emotions go. No, that's not okay, because too many of them receive this goddamn participation trophy shit. They get told that everybody is equal outside of level of effort that is put into something. We're reducing the strength of men and told that they're all equal just for showing up. Bullshit. I don't want to see no whining. Men shouldn't be whining and crying and shit like that unless there's something significant that happened within their life. Don't talk to me until you have a major death in your family or you break both your legs. But outside of that, I can't stand when they lead with all this weak ass shit. Be a respectful man. Be a stoic man. Be a responsive man. Don't over leverage being a jerk. But hey, listen, sometimes as a man, you need to be confrontational.
Protector. Because for some reason, that part of it, I think, appealed to me. And it, at its best, it then counterbalanced the idea of being strong, right? Like, you're strong not to pick on people, right? Not to be a bully, not to dominate others. Instead, it's strength
to defend people
in order to protect
people.
Right?
Okay.
And for me, a lot of being a man was being self-sufficient. Right? The idea of I can handle myself and make my way through the world.
All right, so now fast forward. We're going to pick up the conversation when they begin to speak about single parent households.
But there are, the story you tell is the story of probably most kids.
A lot of kids.
Across the country. Yeah. If, you're a single parent, you don't have somebody at home, a lot of kids are, they got to get up, make their own breakfast, find their way. They're doing that every day because there isn't an alternative.
Correct. And figuring out what that balance is.
And figuring out that's exactly the point. What is the balance?
It's tough.
Which is very different from how we parented our kids, how Kelly is, and you and Kelly are parenting your younger sons now.
But part of it, don't you think part of it was also time specific, in the sense that when we were coming up, the idea of kids just being out and having adventures and just getting home in time for dinners, especially during the summers, right? Part of what happened, and I maybe affected boys a little more than girls, I don't know, is that freedom, that sense of being able to build up resilience and a sense of competence and a sense of I can manage the world around me because the stakes weren't so high. When I think about kids now on the South Side, same neighborhoods where you guys grew up, but the chances of possibly getting shot or the chances of, some other terrible thing happening are higher. And I think that affected everybody's parenting, and it affected how we handle kids, right? So that now suddenly, instead of just saying, all right, get out of here and come back for dinner time, now it's a play date. And where are you? And do we know the parents where you're playing? And so on and so forth.
We see a good example in it in one of my favorite shows on Netflix that has become the topic of conversation amongst a lot of people, particularly in Black homes, is this series Forever, which is a beautiful story of young love in a Black neighborhood. And it is not traumatic, and bad things don't happen.
It's just regular kids.
It's just regular kids that reflects all of our lives in real ways. And I know you watched some of that, and Barack, you are well aware of it. But the show has created a lot of conversation in terms of how do you raise emotionally intelligent boys and what we get right and what we get wrong. Not just among boys, but kids in general.
We watched it as a family. We watched the whole series as a family and enjoyed it a lot. And it was really fun to hear the boys talk about, oh, you guys would have done that, or you guys wouldn't have done that. That was eye-opening as a parent.
Yeah,
you know, because
they're evaluating you.
They're evaluating. They're evaluating our parenting, or they're evaluating their parenting based on their own.
That's
the show.
crazy. That's a crazy thing Dad would do.
Yeah.
The,
and it but this brings me back to Emma. Emma's trying to raise these boys, and so she's trying to be somewhere between Forever and then the other show that people are talking about, Adolescence, which I haven't watched yet, which it gets into sort of the misogyny that young boys are exposed to,
and the online, you know,
the manosphere.
They're getting their parenting.
They're getting their
online.
parenting.
They're getting their notions of manhood from extreme
extremists.
Yeah, extremists.
Well, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Because let's go back to the original question. All right. Emma's trying to figure out how to raise boys.
Hold on. Raising both boys and girls within this new digital age presents issues that our society has never tackled ever before. And it is especially difficult if solid family structure is not present consistently at home. The reason that there's so many boys to young men searching for father figures, pseudo father figures, pseudo uncles online is because many of them were raised in single mother households, or many of them lack direction or structure within their life. But I think it's important for women to understand is that no matter how good of a mother that you are, a boy will always crave a masculine presence in his life. And the easiest and the most accessible way to find it nowadays is through the internet, where many men just speak the truth. They give structure. You may call men-centric content or the manosphere as littered with extremists, but that's just not true. These men are getting legitimate guidance on how better to live their lives and how better to find and attract a woman for their life. Now, has some of the messages been co-opted by bullshit? I ain't gonna disagree with you there, all right? But the audience knows what's up. And I'm not talking about the audience that gets their fill, that decides things based off of titles or clippable moments, but those that really look at the content and invest significant time in trying to understand it.
I think we did a pretty good job of raising our girls. But I've said often that I think I would have had more difficulty raising a son.
I agree.
Because I think I might have been more judgmental, harder, and I would have tried to. I like to think I would have been more self-aware enough to combat that. But I just think father-son relationships, for me particularly, if I don't have a dad around to show it to me, might have been more difficult. So talk about, Craig, just how you thought about it. Was it just you took what your dad had done and you said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to try the same thing.
Or were there things
did
you
it
didn't
change
wanna
over
do?
time?
Listen, I appreciate Barack saying that. I think that was actually a very important statement right there. He's essentially saying he would have had a tougher time with a boy because he wasn't raised with a father. Ergo, the massive importance of having a two-parent household, a man in the house, because if not, it can perpetuate a cycle.
It was a little bit of everything, but what you're both saying. Initially, I thought, okay, I'm going to take what I learned from Dad, all the things that I thought were positive, and then the couple of things that I thought were negative, I was going to try and repurpose.
Right.
What were some of the positives?
Well, it's just kind of the stuff that I named before. The willingness to get up and go to work every day, taking me with him to see what it was like to have male relationships, either at work, at the barbershop. He didn't go to the gym, but in places where men hung out.
Right.
The record store, we would go to the record store every now and then, and he'd have a bunch of friends there. That sounds like an old
I know the record
idea,
store.
going to the record store.
It's come back.
It's come back.
Oh, has it? Okay, good.
It's retro.
But those were some of the positive things. how to walk with mom when you're walking down the street. Always walk on the
outside.
street side.
Yeah. On the street
And
side.
holding the door and opening the door for her, allowing her to go in. It was just things like that. And then I, I'd have to really work at thinking of something negative that dad did. But
well, what about, let me ask this though. I mean, dad also came home, put his feet up, he didn't always cook, he didn't do dishes, he didn't do.
But you have to remember that I was thinking at the time that was okay because he was at work all day and he needed to rest and mom was always cooking. So, but that's a good one. That's a good potential negative.
Gender roles, very clear.
Very clear gender roles.
The man was having a hard time in order to figure out some of the negatives that their father went through to provide for the family. And here goes Michelle with all her damn feminism. Meanwhile, it worked for your family. It worked for the parents, for their dynamic. The man was doing everything in his power to ensure that y'all had everything that you needed as children. You don't need to criticize them. Both of y'all grew up just fine. My thing is that many feminists today will talk ill of couples, families that want to exercise traditional gender roles and act like it's a bad thing. And in fact, it's what can give a household supreme structure, awesome balance, and long-term stability.
And I thought, okay, I'm going to do the positive things and then sort of expose Avery, who's my oldest, to less of the negative things. And you have to remember, Avery's 33. So he didn't have to worry. We didn't have to worry about social media. There was very little internet stuff. We really focused on how to behave out in public as a guy, or I should say, how to get along, how to treat girls, how to have conversations. But with Austin and Aaron, it's more of how do you deal with social media.
Yeah.
And which was in Forever, the whole premise of the show. What are you supposed to say when you do
Is this
that?
a spoiler alert?
Spoiler alert. Was a video that got leaked. So we're constantly talking to them about that. And now I have even more things to draw from because I raised Avery, and there were some things that I was like, I wish I hadn't done that.
I could have done that better.
I could have done that better. Whether it was sort of teaching them how to drink. I mean, if you don't know how to, you could end up in a bad situation.
That's true.
More direct conversations about the first time you are with a woman intimately.
Do you mean sex, Craig?
I do mean sex, and it's funny how I was tiptoeing around.
Craig got a little.
I was gonna let him do it
because
too,
I feel like I'm
I was like,
I'm on
you
television.
made me nervous. I was just like, let me let him get through this.
But damn, man, just say it with your damn chest. What you guys gonna lose a brand sponsor for saying sex? Anyway, I find it interesting that they can have this conversation and not talk about some of the real issues at hand. Back in the time periods of their father growing up, it was expected that men were to be chivalrous, to hold open doors for, women. And then nowadays it can be considered a microaggression, or that men and women have been equalized so much that biological men can now participate within women's sports. This kind of dynamic confuses boys that are trying to figure out how to be men. But then the content readily available on the internet can take these unique situations and guide them to make the best choices for them. But instead of acknowledgement of that guidance, instead they get shamed. Instead, they're told that the content that they're reviewing is extreme. But continuing to ignore the plight of young boys and men is exactly why, one of the many major reasons why y'all party lost. That's a major reason Trump is now in office, is because there's so many men that are tired of being ignored. And the Democratic Party has made it a mission to prop up women's issue while ignoring men's issues. And what's actually interesting about that is they begin to acknowledge boys being ignored in the next section.
Still on the come up, but I do think this idea of men, there are many different ways of being a good, strong, successful, happy man. I think that's something that young people are more open to and recognize. And so that's promising. And we see it, when we talk to Millie and Sasha and their friends. I think that what we need to do in order to take advantage of that is to, as a society, as communities, recognize that this kind of transition from the old models that you and I, Craig, grew up on. Just like you said, you took a lot of good stuff from your dad, but then there were some modifications that just had to be made, either because of blind spots, limits, lack of resource, what have you.
The times.
Where we joke that talking to Millie and Sasha, sometimes they go out with their friends and, they're in a group and the guy's got crocodile arms, It's like
not picking up the check.
Not picking up the check. And it's like, okay, you don't have to pick it up all the time. But if you're never picking it up,
right,
that's a problem.
Says something about you.
If you're never opening a door or pulling out a chair, because that's just common courtesy. That's just being kind, right?
Kindness.
So for those of you who do not have sons, so Emma, we are rooting for you because those of us with daughters,
we need good men.
We've got to have good guys out there, not necessarily to get married, but to make sure that what we're learning, I think, is that when we don't think about boys and just assume they're going to be okay because they've been running the world and they've got all the advantages relative to the girls, and all of which has historically been true in all kinds of ways.
I think we got to stop sending all of these mixed signals to young men, right? Because society is confusing them. The messages that they're receiving is confusing them about what it is to be a man, what they're supposed to do in order to provide for a woman. And we're stripping away that clarity to grow into strong, confident leaders. For example, if you're going to present the issue that men and women are equal, then why can I not be equally responsible for the check? We're equal, right? But you guys fought for equality. You fought to be equal. But now there's an issue if 50-50 is presented. Now, as a man, I don't agree with 50-50 because of the dynamics of the relationship that I'd like to set up. But again, we get back into that gender roles conversation. But these young men are confused. Are they crocodile arming or T-Rex arming, whatever he said, because they're like, well, she wants to be a strong, independent woman. Why can't she not pick up this bill? And at the same junction, many of these young men want to forego being taken advantage of. They know that women might want to go on a date with them because they want Ruth Chris, not because the woman is actually fundamentally interested in him as a man, but they want to go have fun for a couple of hours somewhere and they've never been to that restaurant. So come on, guy, go take me over here. But if there's an expectation for men to take up these traditional chivalrous type of roles, then do not dissuade young women from practicing some of those traditional type of roles as well. Men and women are not equal. We can be equally valued, but for different things. We complement each other. We're not meant to compete. But as a man, you cannot expect to display yourself in such a giving way without also getting something back in return. If you want men to show up as leaders, protectors, as well as providers, then women should be bringing something to the table as well. Sprinkle in a little bit of modesty, sprinkle in a little bit of femininity, sprinkle in a mindset that honors participation, that honors letting him be a man, not honoring wearing a power struggle as a badge of honor.
But precisely because of that, if you're not thinking about what's happening to boys and how are they being raised, then that can actually hurt.
They keep outperforming me and call me crazy, but I hope they never stop. Everyone thinks I have a team, a full-on 5-person operation, but it's just me and Motion. I didn't hire anyone, I hired AI, a team of diligent experts. My executive assistant handles all my calendars and emails. My marketing associate drafts my posts and runs my campaigns. And my sales rep finds leads and actually follows up without me having to lift a finger. Clients ask me, how do you keep it up? And I just nod like I've got a whole team behind me. But really, it's just one person with 5 invisible co-workers who never drop the ball. So start building your AI team with Motion. Your free trial is waiting.
Women. And I would argue that some of the broad political trends we've seen, not just in this country, but around the world, have to do with this sense of, boys, men not feeling as if they are seen, feeling as if they count. Mm-hmm. And that then makes them more interested in.
Breaking news.
Dooring is a cycle.
Yeah, we gonna be out, man. But yeah, like, crazy shit with Shannon Sharpe. You feel me? Like they been warned him. Monique and Cap been warned him. He didn't want to listen. It's still a crazy thought that he's 56 and she was a dub. Yeah, but we're gonna talk about it more in the next one, and we gone.